Shri Matre Namaha, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, and welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's online chanting classes. We're currently doing a review of Sri Lalitha Sahasranama Stotram. So it's a little bit more fast-paced than a typical class. We had already done a class previously, which you can find on the temple's YouTube channel. But we have completed up through the 92nd shloka. So we're just about halfway through. So we'll be starting with the 93rd shloka. Okay, so first I'll start with the Ganapati prayer, and then I'll start the review practice. Om Shuklam Varadharam Vishnum Shashit. Excuse me. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Okay, starting with the 93rd shloka. Kushala Komalakara. Kushala Komalakara. Kushala Komalakara. Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Kushala Komalakara Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Kushala Komalakara Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Kushala Komalakara Gurukulla Kuleshwari. Next line. Kula Kundalaya Kaula. Kula Kundalaya Kaula. Kula Kundalaya Kaula. Marka Tatpara Sevita. Marka Tatpara Sevita. Marka Tatpara Sevita. Kula Kundalaya Kaula Marga Tatpara Sevita. Kula Kundalaya Kaula Marga Tatpara Sevita. Kula Kundalaya Kaula Marga Tatpara Sevita. Next line. Kumara Gananathamba. Kumara Gananathamba. Kumara Gananathamba. Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Kumara Gananathamba Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Kumara Gananathamba Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Kumara Gananathamba Tushtif Pushtirmatir Dhrutihi. Next line. Shanti Swastimati Kantir. Shanti Swastimati Kantir. Shanti Swastimati Kantir. Nandini Vighnanashini. Nandini Vighnanashini. Nandini Vighnanashini. Shanti swastimati kantirnandini vighnanashini. Shanti swastimati kantirnandini vighnanashini. Shanti swastimati kantirnandini vighnanashini. Next line. Tejovati trinayana, Tejovati trinayana, Tejovati trinayana. And here, notice the holding after dirgha, holding on it in trinayana. So we have Tejovati trinayana, Tejovati trinayana. Okay, now the next part. Lolakshi kamarupini, Lolakshi kamarupini, Lolakshi kamarupini. And again, holding after dirgha, holding on the ik in Lolakshi, Lolakshi. Okay, now the full line. Tejovati trinayana lolakshi kamarupini. Tejovati trinayana lolakshi kamarupini. Tejovati trinayana lolakshi kamarupini. Next line. Malini hamsini mata, Malini hamsini mata, Malini hamsini mata, Malaya chalavasini, Malaya chalavasini, Malaya chalavasini. Malini hamsini mata malaya chalavasini. Malini hamsini mata malaya chalavasini. Malini hamsini mata malaya chalavasini. Next line. So in this line, pay attention to where the Mahapranas are. Sumukhi nalini subhru, Sumukhi nalini subhru, Sumukhi nalini subhru, Shobhana suranahika, Shobhana suranahika, Shobhana suranahika. Sumukhi nalini subhru shobhana suranahika. Sumukhi nalini subhru shobhana suranahika. Sumukhi nalini subhru shobhana suranahika. And in the middle of this line, notice the holding on visarga after a dirgha. So we have subhruhu, followed by shobhana. So the visarga is pronounced like the following sound, which is sha, and it is holding after the dirgha sound. So we have subhru shobhana, subhru shobhana. Okay, so I'll do the line one more time. Sumukhi nalini subhru shobhana suranahika. Okay, now the next line. Kalakanthi kantimati, Kalakanthi kantimati, Kalakanthi kantimati Shobhini Sukshmarupini Shobhini Sukshmarupini Shobhini Sukshmarupini Kalakanthi kantimati Shobhini Sukshmarupini Kalakanthi kantimati Shobhini Sukshmarupini Kalakanthi kantimati Shobhini Sukshmarupini. And in this line, there are two occasions of holding after dirgha, where the holding is on ik in the ksha sound. So we have kantimati Shobhini, mati ksho, and then again sukshma in sukshma rupini. Okay, so just pay attention to those. Now the next line. Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vayovastha Vivarjita, Vayovastha Vivarjita, Vayovastha Vivarjita, Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vayovastha Vivarjita, Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vayovastha Vivarjita, Vajreshwari Vamadevi, Vayovastha Vivarjita. Now the next line. Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddhamata Yashasvini, Siddhamata Yashasvini, Siddhamata Yashasvini, Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddhamata Yashasvini, Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddhamata Yashasvini, Siddheshwari Siddhavidya, Siddhamata Yashasvini. And in this line, of course, we have the same Mahaprana dha sound coming 3 times in a row. So just watch out for those. So with this next shloka, number 98, there comes a series of shlokas in which the Vag Devatas are describing the chakras in the energy body. Starting with Vishuddhi chakra, which is the throat chakra, which is interesting that they chose to start from the Vishuddhi chakra. And so these shlokas are very interesting, but they also contain a lot of challenging sound combinations. So this section is something that I always find a little extra challenging. So this definitely deserves some more of your practice time, just to make sure that all the sounds are coming out correctly and fluently. And some of them you may have to slow it down a little bit before it feels natural, before you can bring it back to a regular speed. Okay, so we'll start from Vishuddhi chakra. And here I'm going to be breaking in the middle of the line, which facilitates ease of chanting in the melody. But of course, it is breaking up one of the names, which is not correct. So when we chant, we link it all together, but just keep in mind that as I'm doing the review, I'll be breaking up words by the syllables and not by the names themselves. Vishuddhi chakra nilaya, Vishuddhi chakra nilaya, Vishuddhi chakra nilaya, Raktavarna trilochana, Raktavarna trilochana, Raktavarna trilochana. And just to emphasize again, the actual name is Raktavarna, not Raktavarna. I was only chanting it that way to make it clear how the melody and the rhythm should go. But the actual name is Raktavarna. Okay, so now I'll do the full line. Vishuddhi chakra nilaya Raktavarna trilochana. Vishuddhi chakra nilaya Raktavarna trilochana. Vishuddhi chakra nilaya Raktavarna trilochana. Next line. Khatvangadi praharana. Khatvangadi praharana. Khatvangadi praharana. Vadanaika samandita. Vadanaika samandita. Vadanaika samandita. Khatvangadi praharana. Vadanaika samandita. Khatvangadi praharana. Vadanaika samandita. Khatvangadi praharana vadanaika samandita. Now the next one. Payasanna priyatvakstha. Payasanna priyatvakstha. Payasanna priyatvakstha. And here, notice the holding after dirgha happening in two occasions. Payasanna, anna, and then priyat vakstha. Priyat vakstha is a conjunct akshara, sanyukta akshara, and the ya in priya is dirgha, so we have holding after dirgha. Okay, it's very easy to miss that or forget that, so I'm just pointing it out. Payasanna priyatvakstha. And then the next part. Pashuloka bhayankari. Pashuloka bhayankari. Pashuloka bhayankari. Payasanna priyatvakstha. Pashuloka bhayankari. Payasanna priyatvakstha. Pashuloka bhayankari. Payasanna priyatvakstha. Pashuloka bhayankari. Now the next line. Amrutade mahashakti. Amrutade mahashakti. Amrutade mahashakti. And here we don't want to say amrutadi. It's not amrutadi. It's just amrutadi. There's no holding on the And the reason for that is that the r is the vowel. It's not the R consonant. So if you're using a Tamil script, you may have to make a note of that just to remind yourself that there's no holding there. Okay. Now the next part. Samvrutada kinishvari. Samvrutada kinishvari. Samvrutada kinishvari. Amrutade mahashakti. संवृताडाकिनीश्वरी अमृतादि महाशक्ति संवृताडाकिनीश्वरी अमृतादि महाशक्ति संवृताडाकिनीश्वरी. So up until this point, we've been describing, or the Vagdevatas have been describing the Vishuddhi chakra and what the food is for that chakra and the nature of the deity, the yogini who resides in that chakra. And then starting from the 100th sloka, we move from the throat to the heart with Anahatabja Nilaya. Anahata is referring to the Anahata chakra or the heart chakra. Anahatabja Nilaya, Anahatabja Nilaya, Anahatabja Nilaya, Shyama Bhavadanatvaya, Shyama Bhavadanatvaya, Shyama Bhavadanatvaya. Anahatabja Nilaya Shyama Bhavadanatvaya. Anahatabja Nilaya Shyama Bhavadanatvaya. Anahatabja Nilaya Shyama Bhavadanatvaya. And in this line, notice the holding after dirgha in the middle of the line. Nilayashya, Nilayashyama. Okay, now the next line. This is a challenging one. Damshtrojvalakshamaladi, Damshtrojvalakshamaladi, Damshtrojvalakshamaladi. Dhara Rudhira Samsthita, Dhara Rudhira Samsthita, Dhara Rudhira Samsthita. So in this line, there's a combination of a number of Mahapranas, as well as holding after Dirgha, as well as dental sounds combined with retroflex sounds that make it a bit of a tongue twister. So this line will probably need a little bit of extra practice. So now I'll do the full line. Damshtrojvalakshamaladi-dhara rudhira samsthita. Damshtrojvalakshamaladi-dhara rudhira samsthita. Damshtrojvalakshamaladi-dhara rudhira samsthita. So what I always recommend to people is when you find that some lines are more challenging, even if you feel like you know the entire stotram, you should still focus on those lines and chant only those lines, maybe, 4, 5, 10, 20 times in a row in one of your practice sessions. Because if all you ever do is practice by chanting the entire stotram all the way through, just maybe once a day or once every couple of days, you'll find that you'll never really perfect those challenging lines. Your chanting will sound fine for most of it, but whenever you come to those trouble spots, you'll stumble or you'll rush through it or it'll come out garbled. So even if you've already learned something or you already know it pretty well, it's still important to just focus on individual challenging lines and repeat them several times in a row on a regular basis until they become very natural. Okay, so that's my recommendation. Now the next line. Kalaratriyadi shaktyogha, Kalaratriyadi shaktyogha, Kalaratriyadi shaktyogha, Vruta snigdhodana priya, Vruta snigdhodana priya. Vruta snigdhodana priya Kalaratriadi Shaktyoughavruta snigdhodana priya Kalaratriadi Shaktyoughavruta snigdhodana priya Kalaratriadi Shaktyoughavruta snigdhodana priya. Next time. Mahavirendra Varada Mahavirendra Varada Mahavirendra Varada Rakyanyamba Swarupini Rakyanyamba Swarupini Rakyanyamba Swarupini Mahavirendra Varada Rakyanyamba Swarupini Mahavirendra Varada Rakyanyamba Swarupini Mahavirendra Varada Rakyanyamba Swarupini. So I'm just going to pause there and see if anyone has any questions on what we've done so far. Okay, sounds like everyone is okay. So starting with shloka number 102, we have the beginning of the discussion of Manipura chakra. So Manipurabja Nilaya means she who is residing in the lotus of the Manipura. So it's not just visualizing it as a chakra, but also as lotuses. The chakras are also like a lotus. Manipurabja Nilaya Manipurabja Nilaya Manipurabja Nilaya Vadanatraya Sanyuta Vadanatraya Sanyuta Vadanatraya Sanyuta Manipurabja Nilaya Vadanatraya Sanyuta Manipurabja Nilaya Vadanatraya Sanyuta Manipurabja Nilaya Vadanatraya Sanyuta. Next line. Vajradika Yudhopeta Vajradika Yudhopeta Vajradika Yudhopeta Ramaryadibhiravruta 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 Vajradika Yudhopeta Ramaryadibhiravruta Vajradika Yudhopeta Ramaryadibhiravruta Vajradika Yudhopeta Ramaryadibhiravruta. Next line. Raktavarnamam sanishtha Raktavarnamam sanishtha Raktavarnamam sanishtha Gudanna pritamanasa Gudanna pritamanasa Gudanna pritamanasa. So in this line, it's interesting that the name Raktavarna occurs. And if you remember earlier, we had Araktavarna. So which people might have thought it was just Raktavarna, but here we see that that name comes here. And since there is no dosham of repetition in the Lalitha Sahasranama, there are actually two different names. So we should be aware that they are two different names. They are not the same thing. So first it was Raktavarna, and now it is just Raktavarna. So I'll do the full line. Raktavarnamam sanishtha gudanna pritamanasa. Raktavarnamam sanishtha gudanna pritamanasa. Raktavarnamam sanishtha gudanna pritamanasa. Next line. Samasta bhakta sukhada. Samasta bhakta sukhada. Samasta bhakta sukhada. Lakinyamba swarupini. Lakinyamba swarupini. Lakinyamba swarupini. Samasta bhakta sukhada lakinyamba swarupini. Samasta bhakta sukhada lakinyamba swarupini. Samasta bhakta sukhada lakinyamba swarupini. Next line. Swadhisthana bhujagata. Swadhisthana bhujagata. Swadhisthana bhujagata. Chaturvaktra manohara. Chaturvaktra manohara. Chaturvaktra manohara. Swadhisthana bhujagata chaturvaktra manohara. Swadhisthana bhujagata chaturvaktra manohara. Swadhisthana bhujagata chaturvaktra manohara. So starting from this line, we are discussing the swadhisthana chakra, the chakra below the navel chakra or Manipura chakra. Swadhisthana bhujagata. Okay, next line. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Pitavarnati garvita. Pitavarnati garvita. Pitavarnati garvita. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Pitavarnati garvita. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Pitavarnati garvita. Shulatyayudha sampanna. Pitavarnati garvita. Next line. Medo nishtha madhuprita. Medo nishtha madhuprita. Medo nishtha madhuprita. Bandhinyadi samanvita. Bandhinyadi samanvita. Bandhinyadi samanvita. Medo nishtha madhuprita. Bandhinyadi samanvita. Medo nishtha madhuprita. Bandhinyadi samanvita. Medo nishtha मधुप्रीता बन्धिन्यादिसमन्विता. Next slide. दध्यन्नासक्तहृदया 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 काकिनी रूपधारिणी काकिनी रूपधारिणी काकिनी रूपधारिणी दध्यन्नासक्तहृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी दध्यन्नासक्तहृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी दध्यन्नासक्तहृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी. So starting from the next line, the Vagdevatas start to describe the Mooladhara chakra or the root chakra. Mooladharambujarudha 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 Panchavakrasthi samsthita Panchavakrasthi samsthita Mooladharambujarudha Panchavakrasthi samsthita Mooladharambujarudha Panchavakrasthi samsthita Mooladharambujarudha Panchavakrasthi samsthita. Next slide. Ankushadipraharana 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 Varadadinishevita 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 Ankushadipraharana Varadadinishevita Ankushadipraharana Varadadinishevita Ankushadipraharana Varadadinishevita. Next slide. Mudgaudana-sakta-chitta 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 Sakinyamba-swarupini 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 Mudgaudana-sakta-chitta Sakinyamba-swarupini Mudgaudana-sakta-chitta Sakinyamba-swarupini Mudgaudana-sakta-chitta Sakinyamba-swarupini. Okay, so from the next line, from the root chakra, the Vagdevatas move to the Agnya chakra and start to describe the third eye chakra. Agnya chakra janilaya Agnya chakra janilaya Agnya chakra janilaya Shuklavarna sharanana Shuklavarna sharanana Shuklavarna sharanana Now I'll do the full line.
Agnya chakrabja nilaya shukla varna sharanana. Agnya chakrabja nilaya shukla varna sharanana. Agnya chakrabja nilaya shukla varna sharanana.
So in the first word, agnya, this is a pretty commonly known word, but just keep in mind that the nya sound, which is written in English as J with N with a squiggly over the N, that is considered, sometimes it's treated as one sound or one letter in how some people represent the Sanskrit letters, but it's technically a conjunct akshara. So there is holding, and the nya sound in agnya, it's difficult to describe how it's pronounced. It's not really gana, it's not really gya, it's more like nya, nya. So it's kind of like in English, if I were to write it in English letters, it's a little bit like NGYA, nya. But there's holding on that sound. So it becomes agnya, agnya. Okay, so just want to point that out because it's very easy to skip over or miss that subtle detail. Oops. Give me 1 second. Okay, so going on to the next line.
Majja samsthaham savati. Majja samsthaham savati. Majja samsthaham savati. Mukhya shakti samandita. Mukhya shakti samandita. Mukhya shakti samandita. Majja samsthaham savati mukhya shakti samandita. Majja samsthaham savati mukhya shakti samandita. Majja samsthaham savati mukhya shakti samandita.
Next line.
Haritranaikarasika. Haritranaikarasika. Haritranaikarasika.
And here, notice one more time the holding after dirgha. Haridranaika. Haridranaika. Okay.
Hakini rupadharini. Hakini rupadharini. Hakini rupadharini. Haritranaikarasika. Hakini rupadharini. Haritranaikarasika. Hakini rupadharini. Haritranaikarasika. Hakini rupadharini.
And starting from the next line, the Vagdevatas are describing the Sahasrara chakra, or as they call it, the Sahasra Dala Padma. Sahasra Dala Padma, the 1,000-petaled lotus.
Sahasradala padmastha. Sahasradala padmastha. Sahasradala padmastha. Sarvavarnopashobhita. 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 Sahasradala padmastha. Sarvavarnopashobhita. Sahasradala padmastha. Sarvavarnopashobhita. Sahasradala Padmastha Sarvavarnopashobhita.
Next line.
Sarvayudhadhara Shukla. Sarvayudhadhara Shukla. Sarvayudhadhara Shukla. Samsthita Sarvatomukhi. Samsthita Sarvatomukhi. Samsthita Sarvatomukhi. Sarvayudhadhara Shukla Samsthita Sarvatomukhi. Sarvayudhadhara Shukla Samsthita Sarvatomukhi. Sarvayudhadhara Shukla Samsthita Sarvatomukhi.
Okay. Next line.
Sarvaudana Prita Chitta. Sarvaudana Prita Chitta. Sarvaudana Prita Chitta. Yakinyamba Swarupini. Yakinyamba Swarupini. Yakinyamba Swarupini.
So something that I haven't really pointed out until now, but we have all these names that are some variation on Amba Swarupini, like Yakin Yamba, Lakin Yamba, Rakin Yamba. And because we recognize Amba and we recognize Swarupini, and those are very common names, there's a tendency to just pronounce it like Amba Swarupini. But that's not technically accurate. Notice that there is holding on the holding after dirgha, holding on the its sound in Swarupini. So here it's Yakin Yamba Swarupini. Okay, so it's a subtle detail, and it's very easy to miss because we're used to saying Amba Swarupini or something like that. But just wanted to point that out as a subtle detail. Now the full line.
Sarvaudana Prita Chitta Yakinyamba Swarupini. Sarvaudana Prita Chitta Yakinyamba Swarupini. Sarvaudana Prita Chitta Yakinyamba Swarupini.
Next line. So that line that we just did is the end of the Vagdevata's description of the chakras. So starting from the next line, it's no longer describing the chakras. There are other meanings for the names.
Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyashravana kirtana. Punyashravana kirtana. Punyashravana kirtana. Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyashravana kirtana. Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyashravana kirtana. Punyakirtif punyalabhya. Punyashravana kirtana.
Next line.
Pulomajarchita bandha. Pulomajarchita bandha. Pulomajarchita bandha. Mochani bandhuralaka. Mochani bandhuralaka. Mochani bandhuralaka.
So please note that here, it's commonly given also as Barbaralaka instead of Bandhuralaka. They have the same meaning, But these two variations frequently come up. So you may hear it both ways, but both the words like bandhura and barbara has the same meaning of wavy. So now I'll do the full line.
पुलोमचर्चिता बन्धमोचनी बन्धुरालका पुलोमचर्चिता बन्धमोचनी बन्धुरालका.
Or you can do it as
पुलोमचर्चिता बन्धमोचनी पर्परालका.
next line.
विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या दियदादिजगत्प्रसूः 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 विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या वियदादिजगत्प्रसूः विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या वियदादिजगत्प्रसूः विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या वियदादिजगत्प्रसूः.
Next line.
सर्वव्याधिप्रशमनी 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 सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी 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 सर्वव्याधिप्रशमनी सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी सर्वव्याधिप्रशमनी सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी सर्वव्याधिप्रशमनी सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी.
Next line.
अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी 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 अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी.
Next line.
कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कमलाक्षनिषेविता 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 कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कमलाक्षनिषेविता कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कमलाक्षनिषेविता कात्यायनी कालहन्त्री कमलाक्षनिषेविता.
Next line.
ताम्बूलपूरितमुखी 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 दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा ताम्बूलपूरितमुखी दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा ताम्बूलपूरितमुखी दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा ताम्बूलपूरितमुखी दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा
Next line.
मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी
Next line.
नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर् नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर् नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर् नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी नित्यतृप्ता
Excuse me.
नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर्नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर्नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर्नियन्त्रे निखिलेश्वरी
Next line. This is the last line we'll do tonight.
मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या 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 महाप्रलयसाक्षिणी 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 मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या महाप्रलयसाक्षिणी मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या महाप्रलयसाक्षिणी मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या महाप्रलयसाक्षिणी.
So in the first name, notice the holding after dirgha, maitriyadi, maitriyadi. Okay, holding on the it after the I in my. And this name is one of my favorites in Lalitha Sahasranama, maitriyadi vasana labhya, meaning she is to be obtained through the nature of friendliness or maitri. Maitri means friendliness. Maitriyadi vasana, the nature of friendliness. So people often think Sri Vidya is very complicated and this Sahasranama is very long and difficult to pronounce. And that may be true. There are some complexities, but this name is such a good reminder that it's really very simple, that just the gesture of being friendly towards all beings is the way to attain her. So Maitriyadi Vasana Labhya, that's a good note to end tonight's session on. So Sri Gurubhyo Namaha, Sri Matre Namaha. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Amma.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amma. Thank you.
Okay.